For decades, he was the spare, the decorated war hero, the swaggering trade envoy who lived on his royal status. He was Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and he truly seemed untouchable. Even as his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein spiraled from a PR nightmare into a moral catastrophe, he was insulated by palace walls and a lifetime of privilege. But now, what might be his final, most unbelievable act of arrogance has come to light, and the protection he always took for granted has evaporated. The latest batch of Epstein files reportedly revealed what could be Prince Andrew's final, unforgivable act: sharing confidential government reports with a convicted sex offender. This is the story of his stunning arrest for suspicion of misconduct in public office, a disgrace that may finally, and deservedly, stick. It's the story of a man who believed he was above the law, only to find himself its subject. On a Thursday morning in February 2026, his 66th birthday, no less, the world of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor finally came crashing down. Police arrived at his residence not with a polite request, but with an arrest warrant on suspicion of misconduct in public office. For over 10 hours, the man who was once a senior member of the royal family was held and questioned by police before being released under investigation. It was a seismic event, the first time a senior royal had been arrested in modern history. The charge itself is both complex and absolutely damning. Misconduct in public office is a common law offense in the UK for those who willfully neglect or abuse their position of public trust. The charge doesn't focus on the sordid details of Epstein's sex trafficking ring, but on Andrew's own actions during the decade he served as the UK's special representative for international trade and investment. It's a legal strategy that's being compared to going after Al Capone for tax evasion. When the main crimes are notoriously hard to prosecute, you go after the provable offenses on the side. The irony is staggering. The very role that gave Andrew a purpose outside the royal bubble is now the instrument of his downfall. From 2001 to 2011, he traveled the globe on the taxpayer's dime, meeting world leaders and business executives, all to promote British interests. His title gave him authority and access to sensitive government information, a privilege he was expected to protect. Instead, as the latest Epstein files suggest, he treated state secrets like his own personal currency, sharing them with a man who should have been a complete outcast. The investigation is ongoing and could take more than a year. Authorities are seeking unredacted versions of the Epstein files from the US, a process that could be tricky. But a line has been crossed. The arrest itself is a humiliation from which there is no recovery. He is now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a private citizen under police investigation, his royal past just a phantom limb aching with the memory of what he once was. The fuse for this spectacular fall from grace was lit in late January 2026 with the release of new Epstein files. Buried within millions of pages were email exchanges that reportedly exposed a staggering level of arrogance and recklessness. The documents are said to show that in 2010, 2 years after Epstein's conviction for soliciting a minor, Andrew wasn't just in contact with him. He was actively sharing sensitive information from his taxpayer-funded job as a trade envoy. The emails allegedly detail how Andrew forwarded confidential reports from official visits to Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Singapore straight to Jeffrey Epstein. These weren't just travel notes. They were government documents, some reportedly marked confidential, filled with insights on investment opportunities. In one stunning exchange, Andrew allegedly forwarded a report on investment opportunities in Afghanistan's Helmand province, specifically asking for Epstein's opinion. He was using a convicted sex offender as an unofficial and wildly inappropriate advisor on British trade policy. That same trove of documents paints an even darker picture of their friendship. It appears that shortly after Epstein was released from house arrest in 2010, Andrew invited him to Buckingham Palace for dinner, promising lots of privacy. This seems to blow a hole right through the story Andrew spun in his disastrous 2019 BBC interview, where he claimed he visited Epstein in New York that year to officially end their friendship. The emails suggest the opposite. Their bond was strong, built on a shared sense of entitlement. In one message, Andrew reportedly asked Epstein if it was good to be free from house arrest. In another, Epstein offered to introduce Andrew to a clever, beautiful, and trustworthy 26-year-old Russian woman, an offer Andrew apparently accepted with delight. It's this evidence, written in his own words, that gave police the grounds for his arrest and provides the foundation for the charge of misconduct in public office. As news of Andrew's arrest broke, the reaction from Buckingham Palace was swift and absolutely brutal. The statement from King Charles III wasn't one of family support, but of regal distance. He stated he learned the news with the deepest concern before making it clear, the law must take its course. This wasn't just a monarch expressing worry, it was a clear signal. The king was cutting his brother loose. The statement added that the royal household would offer its full and wholehearted support and cooperation to the police investigation. For years, the royal family, especially under Queen Elizabeth II, lived by the motto never complain, never explain, hoping scandals would just blow over. Charles, however, has shown a more ruthless, pragmatic approach to protecting the monarchy. His statement was a masterclass in institutional survival, expressing sympathy for abuse victims while building an unbreachable wall between the crown and his disgraced brother. This decisive action wasn't some sudden development. It was the final move in a slow-motion demolition of Andrew's royal life that Charles had been orchestrating for months. The king had long recognized that Andrew's toxicity was a direct threat to his reign. The public was sick of the double standards. On November 3, 2025, the order was made official through a letters patent, a centuries-old legal tool used by monarchs. The announcement was published in the London Gazette, the UK's official public record. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was stripped of his title of prince and his style of His Royal Highness. Gone too were his peerages, Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, and Baron Kalile. His prestigious honors, like the Order of the Garter, were also revoked. In the eyes of the state he was born to represent, he was now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a commoner. The public stripping of his identity was followed by a physical one. Notice was served on his lease at Royal Lodge, his lavish 30-room home on the Windsor estate. He was forced to relocate, first to Wood Farm, a more modest home on the Sandringham estate, and is expected to eventually settle at the secluded Marsh Farm. The move was framed as a shift to alternative private accommodation, but everyone knew what it meant. He was being banished, his presence no longer welcome. Recent reports even suggest aides have been discreetly moving his personal effects out of Royal Lodge, and that the king is losing patience with the cost of renovating Marsh Farm to Andrew's liking. From a Falklands War hero and a globe-trotting trade envoy to a man under police investigation, stripped of his titles and exiled to a farmhouse, the descent has been total. This isn't just a fall from grace, it's an erasure. This investigation is far from over, with police still digging into the evidence and the possibility of more charges on the horizon. What do you believe the final outcome will be for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And to ensure you don't miss any updates on this story, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. The arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is more than just the latest chapter in a sordid royal scandal. It's a reckoning. It's the result of years of breathtaking arrogance from a man who believed his birthright placed him beyond reproach. For too long, his denials, his non-denials, and his infamous claim of being unable to sweat were an insult to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. He hid behind palace walls and the deference given to royalty, even as the evidence against his character kept mounting. Now, stripped of his titles, exiled from his home, and facing the grim reality of a criminal investigation, that facade is shattered. The damning emails, his continued association with a predator, and his willingness to compromise his public office have finally brought the consequences he has long deserved. This isn't a tragedy. It's the slow, grinding arrival of accountability. The question that remains is whether this is the end of the road, or just the beginning of a legal process that could finally deliver a measure of justice.